everyone, welcome to tutorial 9. We're going to talk about JavaScript this tutorial. I just want to cover section 9.1 and 9.2 for this time because you're also going to start working on your group project, and so I just wanted to give you more time to spend on group project. After this, we will just cover one more chapter, and we will finish this chapter and just cover one more chapter, and that's it for your class material. The rest, you have some time for the last 2 weeks to kind of concentrate more on your group project. And so we're not gonna basically we're gonna cover chapter 9 and 10, and that's it. So you will have more time to focus on your group project. So some of the objective for this chapter is how to insert a script element, how can we write JavaScript comments, how can we display an alert dialog box, how can we actually use the browser debugging tool. In another separate sheet, I'm going to actually show you the list of debuggers that are available. Also, I just want to let you know that there are some editors that are available there. Notepad++ is one that you can use. Text Wrangler for Mac if you're a Mac user, and JEdit. So all of these are free, so you can basically use any of these tools to write the codes. And there are debugging tools out here, as you can see. It can basically find your programming errors. So Chrome has a debugger, Firefox has a debugger, and Internet Explorer has a debugger, and you can actually go from these links. I'm going to provide you this kind of a sheet as well into your week's lecture. So let's continue with the other objectives. We are also going to talk about reference browser and page objects. Also, we will talk about how to write methods, and how to write HTML code and text content into a page and work with date object. This is going to cover section 9.1 and section 9.2. So let's just start with what the JavaScript is. So let's distinguish between server-side and client-side programming. On the server-side programming, program code runs from the server hosting the website. In some application, user can interact with the program requesting specific information from the server, but the interaction is done remotely from the user to the server. So some of the advantage and disadvantage of this is that you can connect the server to an online database containing information not directly accessible to the end user, but the disadvantage is that use server resources, and also you require internet access. And another disadvantage is that it could be a long delay in case of system overload. So basically, on the server-side programming, this is how you can see the first step: user retrieve the web page from the server, and then information is being sent to the program running the server, and then the server-side program process those information and then send it back to the user, which can view it. Client-side programming, though, on the other hand, programs can run on the user's computer using the scripts that are downloaded along with HTML and CSS files. So it distributes load to avoid overloading of program-related requests, and the client-side program can never replace the server-side programming. So it's kind of like a one-way. It's space between the client and the server, as the name suggests. So the user retrieves the web page from the server, and then user can run the program locally and get instant feedback. So let's look at the development of JavaScript. So the programming part for the client side is called JavaScript. So this is the program language for client-side program. It is an interpreted language that executes a program code without needing to have an application. And a compiler is basically an application that translates a program code into something that a computer can understand, into a machine language. You need only two things to use in the JavaScript. One of them is basically the text editor to write the code, and then a browser that you can run the codes. So the JavaScript code can be inserted directly into the HTML file, or actually you can put it in a separate file. So you can actually see the code for it. If you want the JavaScript code that's attached to an HTML file, you can use the script element such as this. So this is what you're going to write if you want it to be attached in the HTML file. So the URL is the URL of external file containing that code. So it could be like a .js file. Normally for JavaScript we call it .js file. So it could be like Lila script.js or something like that. So if you don't want to use an external file, you can also use embedded script. You can basically use it by omitting the SRS attribute. So just write it like that. So this could be the embedded into the file. So the script element can be actually placed anywhere within the HTML document. So when the browser encounters the script, it immediately stops loading the page, and it can begin loading and then processing the script command. Only when the script is completed, the browser continues to load the rest of the HTML files. With larger and more complicated script, the loading sequence can degrade the user experience because the page is literally stalled. So because it's going to wait for the script to be processed. So it's like it's going to take time. So we can actually modify the sequence by adding the async or defer attributes to our script. Async attributes basically can tell the browser to parse the HTML and JavaScript code together. Defer attributes, however, it actually defers script processing until after the page has completely parsed and loaded. So both of these, they can be ignored if you are using it the embedded project, embedded script. It can be ignored. So in this example here, this is basically, it's not an embedded one. So we are actually inserting this defer here. So this is the name of our file, .js, and defers it load the script file until after the rest of the page is loaded by the browser. So it's a good way of programming it, good method. So let's look at how to create a JavaScript program. JavaScript files are basically a simple text file, and you can create and edit them using the standard text editor, or you can actually use the one that I have suggested for you guys, these ones, Notepad++ and Text Wrangler for Mac, or JEdit. This is a very good tool to use if you are writing your script. So adding comments to your JavaScript code is helpful. Comments help understand the design and purpose of your program, because if somebody else wants to read your program, they can actually understand it by reading those comments. So JavaScript comments, they can be entered on single or multiple lines. So this is how the syntax of a single line comment is. So \\/ comment text, and then this is the syntax if you want to have multiple one. So you can use the asterisk here. So this is the example of basically how we are adding a comment in a JavaScript. So making the beginning of the command and this is the end, of course this is your comment. It's a very good practice, programming practice. So every JavaScript program consists of a series of commands or statements, we can say. Each command is a single line that can indicate an action that a browser can actually take. So a command should end in a semicolon. So you have the JavaScript command and then you have the semicolon there. So this is basically, you can write it here like this syntax and basically have the semicolon here. So this runs an alert dialog box in the web browser and this text is going to actually show up. So, and this is how we are actually seeing it in the Google Chrome. There are other syntax rules that we might have to understand other than having a semicolon. JavaScript is basically case sensitive, so you might want to pay attention to whether or not the letters of a JavaScript command are capitalized or not. Extra byte space between command is ignored, and line breaks placed within the name of a JavaScript command or a code text string can actually cause an error. Of course, we might have some programming errors, so it's always good to have it to be able to debug our code. So debugging is the process of locating and fixing the programming errors. To debug, we must first understand the type of error that is presented in the code. Basically, there are three types of error. One of them is load time error, the other one is runtime error, and another one is logical error. Load time error can occur when a script is first loaded by a browser. As the page loads, the browser can read through the code and it can look for the mistake. If a syntax error is discovered, the browser halts loading the script before trying to execute it again. A runtime error occurs after a script has been loaded successfully with no syntax error and is being executed by the browser. So in a runtime error, the mistake occurs when the browser cannot complete a line of code. For instance, if a command includes a mathematical expression, for example, having something to divide by zeros, something that's not allowed, the program will fail with a runtime error even though we have the proper syntax. So this is the difference between the runtime error and load time error. The logical error is, however, free from syntax and executable mistake, but the result is incorrect, such as the wrong name being returned for a database or an incorrect value being returned from a calculation. So a lot of people kind of make these logical errors, and it's very hard to fix, and it is actually requiring you to trace your program and try to understand the logic and fix it. So it's one of the most difficult ones to fix. So the debugging debugging tools, they locate and fix the errors in the JavaScript. We can use the shortcut to open a debugging tool. That's F12. To view the Google Chrome Developers tool, you can use the F12 to see that. This tool can be opened by selecting the Developers tool from the browser menu. Debugger tools have a lot of tools to help us create more complex and involved programs. A script might work flawlessly except for one line that causes all the subsequent command to fail. One useful technique for locating the source of an error is basically to have breakpoints. Breakpoints, there are locations where the browser will pause the program, letting the programmer to determine whether the error has occurred at the point in the script execution. So basically this is to set a breakpoint in Google Chrome. Click the line number next to the line where you want the browser to pause the execution of the script. So basically you can click there, and you can try this. JavaScript is also been designed to be easy for basically the programmers who are new. For that reason, JavaScript is basically different from the other programming languages such as Java, which is more complex. JavaScript labs in syntax are revolved in a way that is non-fatal to the program's execution. Many developers advocate that JavaScript be run in strict mode, in which all lapses in syntax result in load time or basically runtime error. To run a strict in a strict mode, you can add the use strict command in the first line of the file. So at the beginning you can put this, and then you can basically write your whole program. So this statement here, it interprets the Java code strictly. Basically just some tips that I want to go over with you. You can basically use consistent name. So basically one common source of error is misunderstand variables and functions, so make sure that you have a consistent name in your program. Make the code easier to read with white space. It's always good to have white space and indented text to make your program more legible to others. Keep your lines compact. So long text string can wrap a new line in your text editor, making it difficult for people to read. So basically you want to keep your line to 80 characters or less. And basically use comment in your work so that other people can understand the purpose of each command and expression. So basically this concludes chapter 9.1 section. In the next video I'm going to explain to you about section 9.2. Thank you. Just remember one more thing, that I want you guys to be able to download these editors. They are very useful, and you can actually use these debuggers in each of the browser as well. Okay, watch my next video. Bye bye.